charity trust. And I think that is quite enough because I'm really, really looking forward to hearing from my panel today, which is composed of very smart, very intelligent, and very confident, citizens of the world. And honestly, this is the best panel we can have because the world belongs to the young people. It belongs to sensitive, compassionate women. And so allow me to introduce my panel. First, there is Nema. Hello, Nema. Nima is a literary enthusiast. I can vouch for that. She's also a very compassionate individual, and she's been a volunteer ethics teacher for the past 5 years. And she's actually she's just finishing her senior year at senior A level year, and mashallah, she has a very bright future. Then there is Tuba. Hello, Tuba. Tuba Saad. Tuba is a very curious traveler in the field of art and music and literature. She's also a very strong debater, and she has won quite a few laurels for her school. And I'm moving on now to Arisha. Arisha and Tuba and Inshal, they are all in their junior year of A levels, and they are really, I'm sure, they are really enjoying literature. Arisha is the self-proclaimed feminist in progress, and she's also a writer. She's written for BuzzFeed, and she's now on the editorial board for the school publication. Is that right, Arisha? Yes. All right. Okay. And Insha. Yeah, and Inshal is also an AS level literature student. Her other subjects are in math and world history. She is very much interested in history and how history affects the present and the future. Her lens into the past is very strong, and she's an inquisitive person. So now the topic today is, it's a very sensitive, but it's also a very current, very relevant conversation. This conversation has been happening for a whole decade now. And we are going to today talk about the culture of hidden aggression in young girls. And I thought that there can be no better people to talk about it than young girls themselves, who are, they observe on a daily basis how girls participate in this culture, how same gender friendships are so harmful, and they understand the nuances of it because they see this participation on a daily basis. So my question, I think we are starting from a premise, which is this: is it true that girls manipulate and boys fight? This is the reason why boys bullying is physical and visible, while the kind of bullying that happens in girls circles, girls schools, girls arenas, girls metaphoric playgrounds, they are much more harmful and much harder to detect. So my question is first to Nema, that this culture of aggression has been on the rise, especially in the increasingly online world. So would you like to share, what do you think are the reasons for it?
Yeah, so what happens usually in this sort of a culture is that girls use secrets to weaponizing secrets and using them against each other. So hidden aggression usually happens when, oh, you know what, I'm just gonna talk for your benefit, and then they use these ideas and they use this, entire facade of thinking about you as a cover for that bullying and hidden aggression, especially. It happens because there's this idea of girls do not fight, girls don't do that, girls gossip, and that gossip has been weaponized over the years. In online chat rooms, especially, it's gaining traction because of the fact that there is so much anonymity that is provided by these online chat rooms. And that is how, as our lives become much more public, these sort of aggressions come back and haunt us in those places as well, where our lives are so out there for everyone.
All right, Nima, that was helpful. Would anyone like to add something to it before I move on to the next question?
Right. So I just wanted to build off of something that Neema said. I think that also this idea that's been perpetuated through our lifetime, and it goes back generations, about how a girl is supposed to be petite, essentially feminine, fragile, and everything, right? So when you see a girl physically saying that, oh, you hurt me or you did this, then they're labeled as aggressive, which is why then they tend to hide what they truly want to say under subtle mockery, subtle taunts, and everything which you see in the playground, subtle nods towards other girls, putting them down, because they know that they have to say it all laced in some sort of sweetness to remain and maintain that same petite image of themselves.
All right, yes, that does sound that sounds very possible, and I think it's one of the ways that women have learned for centuries to operate. Inshal, I'm going to ask you a question, because let's look at it in some other way. So my question to you is that why do girls like you, young, intelligent, empowered young women, why do they accept invasive and manipulative overtures from other girls?
So I think the primary reason for that is because of the way that we've been conditioned from our very childhood to be taught that girls are meant to be liked, that girls always have to present this sort of persona in which they're likable, in which other people think they're approachable. So in that sense, even when you know that other women are necessarily making comments about you that aren't positive, there still is this inherent desire to be liked, to be approved of by these women, that allows you to put up with these comments. And I think secondly, it's because of the sort of messaging that we get from around us, in the sense that a lot of us have watched our mothers, have watched our relatives say these sorts of comments towards other women, and have watched it not appear to be that big of a deal. So that allows us to believe that it's okay for this culture to be perpetuated, because we've seen these women that we look up to say these sorts of comments about other people.
Okay, that was interesting, because my next question actually was going to be about how some of this, sexual, emotional, or narratives of manipulation, they are learned behaviors. I think on the peripheries of this conversation, we did discuss that why are these behaviors learned. So my next question is to Arisha, that why do you think that young girls are learning these particular behaviors from adults?
I think it has a lot to do with generational trauma and the way sexism is so inherently and systemically sort of involved in societal structures and societal systems, right? The reason why girls sort of the reason why these are learned behaviors is because, like Inshal mentioned as well, you see your mother is doing this and they saw their mothers doing it. And that has a lot to do with the unchecked generational trauma that has sort of persisted over the years. And when I say generational trauma, what I mean is that women are left to sort of resort to manipulation and gossip instead of, using outbursts or like crying or like raising their voice or anger, because that is seen as this is not feminine. So they often resort to manipulation, and they often resort to these sort of gossip and rumors, because that is all that they are conditioned to sort of like Naima mentioned as well, this is how they weaponize themselves, because this is all that they're sort of left with. Right? And they can't exercise that level of control. They can't exercise that level of aggression, because only a man can be aggressive. A woman can only be passive aggressive. And because of these structures, you see these structures being you see them in family, you see them in media, you see them in classrooms as well. And over generations, you see young girls internalizing these learned behaviors. Mm-hmm. And you see it manifesting in various walks of life.
Mm-hmm. And so what do you think? And, any one of you actually can answer this question. Just raise your hand. Why do you think what do you girls compete for? What is this, why is there this culture of throwing another girl, possibly your friend, your good friend, under the bus? What is this competition about?
Right. Okay. So I think that a lot of this culture stems from wanting male attention. And the reason why it comes to that specific point in the first place is because since we're young, this idea of marriage or this idea of, that, oh, a boy won't like you, you're talking too aggressively, or your voice is too tough, or you are too masculine. You sometimes even see mothers telling their girls that don't work out too much or you'll have muscles, and then who will want to marry you, who will want to be with you, essentially, right? Which is inherently problematic because then these girls tend to compete with themselves as well because, like how Arisha also mentioned, that you internalize generational trauma. You think that you're not good enough. So you put another girl down because you want to perpetuate the idea to yourself that, hey, look, I am good enough.
Okay, all right. So what you're saying is that a lot of this competition is about boys, right? And all right, okay. So that's something I learned today. And okay, Nema, I want to ask you this question that all of you actually you talked about that how you everyone mentioned it in some way or the other that these are learned behaviors, right? Be it your mothers or your aunts or just centuries of conditioned female behavior. Girls have to play nice, girls have to be sugar and spice. So what do girls do when discontent and discord happens? So Nema, would you like to talk a little bit about how media also could also maybe influence this kind of meanness in meanness in girls' behaviors towards each other?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, throughout we've been shown in media that girls who are on top are those who are mean. So the only way that we're told that we can get ahead is by putting each other down. Instead of seeing this as a support system of women coming together, working against a system of misogyny and patriarchy, women are often told that, you know what, if you want to get on top, you need to put the other one down. You need to ensure that when people look at you, it's only you. It's only you that they see as a viable option because everyone else is so bad. So I spoke about weaponized secrets earlier, and that is exactly what happens. A whisper here, a whisper there, a bit of gossip, and you are able to make sure that you're the only one who can be seeing that pristine, pure light, and everyone else is not. So I think media does show us in various TV shows and in everything that a girl who is on top is the one who has been able to speak out in this context especially. So even though now you will see a few more televisions that are coming out against this sort of bullying, especially bullying that happens through conversations, you will not still a lot of the media that is already out there, builds upon this sort of culture.
Yes, that makes sense. That's very interesting also. And I have also been looking at some, I've been just browsing through these teen shows, and you're right, there are the representation of the powerful female, the successful female is actually someone who is unkind, right? And so that actually leads to another question. And I'm going to first ask Arisha, and then inshallah I have a question for you. So Arisha, do you think that young girls today like you, or even younger girls like 14 and 13, do you think that you have enough wholesome, visible, successful female role models who are good people? Do you think there is a need for it? Or do you fashion yourself around, actual women who are successful, but also good, wholesome? So yeah, go ahead.
I think in the media, this sort of good girl trope is extremely unattainable. Even when girls are presented as, they're perfect grades, they're going to this, they're aiming for this Ivy League school, they're good people, they're often victims of bullying instead of, bullying other girls themselves. That image itself is very unattainable, and it's this really picture perfect image for women. And that what that does is that while it's a step away from that mean girl representation that you see in a lot of TV shows, it puts a lot of pressure on young girls to sort of fit themselves according to that mold. And you see a lot of girls, and you see a lot of TV, and you see a lot of girls sort of manifesting this trope, right? One example would be Rory Gilmore from Gilmore Girls, who's like this really perfect student that, is like this inspiration for a lot of teenage girls. They all want to emulate this sort of, perfect student, sort of picture perfect, image that she has of herself. And like I mentioned earlier, it's extremely unattainable. And so that this is one trope, right? And the other trope is this really mean girl trope that you see in TV shows as well. And with the sort of affluent wealth that they have and the sort of witty remarks that they make, instead of presenting them in a negative light, they're often romanticized, right? And you see that with characters, you see that in a lot of mainstream shows such as Gossip Girl, and it extends in other TV shows as well. And so what that does is that it sort of creates two binaries for women, right? You can either be this mean girl, or you can be this really perfect, you're not flawed at all. Either you can be Rory Gilmore, and there's really no in between for women. And like I mentioned, it creates a lot of pressure. So I personally don't think that there are any realistic role models in the media.
Yeah, and I think that poses a tremendous problem, because where are the real women? Where are the real wholesome women who are, who are not participating in this culture? Where are they? Because I'm sure they are, but they are not visible, because this culture is so dominant, it is so overreaching, that somewhere along the way that wholesome girl is compromised. That wholesome girl is not weak because she's kind. She's strong because she's kind, and she's strong because she's inclusive and compassionate, and she stands up for her gender, right? So I mean, I find that really very disturbing and very tragic. So Inshal, I would like you to think about how can institutions, or okay, so society is also an institution, right? And then there are other institutions within the society. There are family structures. There is your high school, right? Which is a cutthroat place for you. So how do you think that institutions like society and schools, what can they do to help you deal with the hidden aggression that apparently so many young girls have developed?
So I think in terms of institutions within society, one big institution is our own families that comes before schools even. It's our form of primary socialization. I think in terms of families, what we can do is to sort of have an equal distribution of labor that happens within families, in the sense that right now you see a lot of mothers tell their daughters specifically that you need to do these household chores, it's your duty, or you won't find a marriage, or you won't find a man, whereas that same sort of language isn't used towards men. And these sorts of basic skills like cooking, cleaning, they're all basic skills that all human beings should know. It's not something specifically that women need to know. So I think encouraging equality in terms of that. But I think schools in particular can not focus certain activities towards a certain gender. So for example, in terms of our extracurriculars, we see that women are more encouraged to go towards culinary extracurriculars or sewing, whereas men are more focused towards sports, and women having a football team isn't seen as important as, for example, the boys football team. So I think this sort of division in activities that happens from nurseries creates this sort of view in women's heads that there's only certain spaces that are acceptable for them to access in terms of the activities that they can do. And I think schools need to equalize the sort of importance that they put on what activities a certain gender can.
All right. Okay. Would anyone else would also like to add something to it? What else can families, adults, basically adult world do? All right. Okay. So Tuba and then Arisha. Yes.
Right. Okay. Thank you. So I think this is a role that's also played by our teachers in order to empower young girls within school systems. So one thing that I see in schools is how, like, Inshal mentioned the boys football team, the girls football team. It's how girls aren't even allowed to wear tights in school simply because the teachers feel as if that would sexualize their bodies, right? Which I think is inherently problematic because it perpetuates this narrative that, okay, yeah, wearing tights is something that's inherently wrong. Whereas the boys can come in wearing shorts, they can wear shorts on their playing fields as well. And because it's so considered so utterly normal, no one can dare even question that, right? So that sort of change should come within school walls, within the administration staff at school as well, that the bare minimum that I think that we can ask for is that girls should also be able to wear what they feel like.
Yes, that makes sense. And yes, Arisha.
Yeah, one other thing that I feel like schools can do is, for girls to really acknowledge that there is a problem. And for them to do that, they need to create safe spaces for women and girls where they can discuss that, this is the problem, this is not working out for us. And so one thing that I feel like schools should have more of are solidarity circles for girls, which should essentially just be a space. It should just be like a safe space for girls to join. They can be like small circles where girls, and it could be a very like student based discussion. There can, like, I feel like it should start from the grassroots level without any teacher involvement. Girls themselves acknowledge that this is a problem. Like Tuba mentioned that, them expecting us not to wear tights is in return them objectifying or nearly sexualizing female bodies, right? For girls to acknowledge that there's a problem, and then from there, from that sort of primary solidarity circle, it goes upwards. You tell somebody, then you tell a teacher. And I feel like for that to happen, you need to create safe spaces. And to do that, I feel like there should be more solidarity circles or renting sessions for girls.
Interesting. Yes. Nema, would you like to add something?
Oh yeah, definitely. So a lot of people, we've been talking about realizing ourselves that this happens, and something else that we need to work about is that girls who are in these sorts of positions who are being bullied can somehow maybe try to make themselves aware of this. So we need to ask ourselves: are we happy when we are with these people, and are we happier when we're away from them? Do we like to hang out with them? And at the same time, we need to make sure that girls are aware that it's not a competition. It's no longer about, putting someone down, putting someone else down and presenting yourself as the only viable option. It's about fighting this entire system together, seeing each other as allies rather than opponents, and working towards a more receptive society in general.
Yes, indeed. I mean, I am a great believer in same gender friendships. I mean, I really do believe that women are more emotive beings, more, perceptive beings, and they do experience a wider range of emotions than, men do or men are aware of, right? So I think what Nema has just reminded us of is that, that yes, the society also needs to put changes forward in the way tradition, custom, gender role models, gender roles work. But what is really important is that what can we do? What can young, smart, sensitive, compassionate, kind, and successful, I mean, all of you are successful people in whatever you are doing at this point in time, right? So what can you do? That is a thought that I would like to leave leave you with, that what is it that you can do to change things for the next generation or for the next girl, and I very recently I read this book. It's called Hell is Other Girls. Okay, it's I think it was published in 2002, and it takes up that same narrative of the cliques of the girl world, the power play, the labeling, and all the those really telltale words that that young girls use for each other, like slut, whore, and also this other one which you actually mentioned, pick me, girl, and these kinds of labels, how harmful and how excluding they are, right? So, yes, and we have 2 minutes left, people, and I would like just very quickly, one of you to talk about what is your experience, what is the female experience in a high school in Pakistan, you know. Go ahead.
Well, as you've mentioned, I'm at the end of my high school experience. So over here, I think we're made very aware of the role of exclusion in our hierarchies. We're made very aware that there's a hierarchy in place, and to be part of those parties, to be part of that entire group, to be actually welcome, you have to listen, and you'll have to put your emotions aside when girls are speaking like this to you, when bullies, you have to make way for the bullies. And in that sort of a society, which is extremely toxic, by the way, um, in that sort of a thing, I don't think that we can prosper, because high school is about letting yourself be you, prospering and moving forward and learning more about you. It's a wonderful time of our lives. And if we are surrounded by these toxic people, I don't think that we could prosper. So yeah, this is something that I wanted to say.
Okay. Thank you very much, Nema, and thank you very much, Inshal and Arisha and Tuba. I'm sorry, Inshal, we have run out of time, but I'm sure that we can follow this up with a blog or something. Thank you very much, people, and I think this is the time to, reflect. Thank you very much.